Have you ever attended a meeting that should have been an email, or found yourself running a meeting that you didn't have time to prepare for? Meetings can be a great opportunity to work better with your colleagues and get things done. But not all meetings are created equal. Some can be really productive while others can be a total waste of time. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my Better Meetings framework to ensure that your next meeting is efficient, effective, and valuable. It doesn't matter if you're organising the meeting or attending it, following this framework allows you to make the most of every meeting in your calendar. Before you schedule another meeting, I want you to conduct a meeting audit to identify what meetings are already working well for you and where there's room for improvement. You can do this for meetings whether you are the organiser or the attendee, and I suggest taking a look at your calendar and completing the audit on the last 6 to 10 meetings. Here's what you do. First, I want you to list the meetings and write down what the purpose of them was. Was it a team meeting? Was it a problem-solving meeting? Was it a one-to-one with your manager? And then write down what the outcome of that meeting was for you and for the group as a whole. Did the outcome match the purpose? Next, I want you to take a look at your role. I want you to evaluate your own contribution to the meeting. I think so often we're waiting for somebody else to make the meetings brilliant, but you are responsible and I'm responsible to show up our best, to show up prepared for every meeting we attend. So are you contributing in the way that you'd like, or are you finding that you don't have enough time to prepare? The third question I want you to ask is whether or not the business gained from the meeting. Take a look at what the team, the department, or the project gained. Did it move something forward? Did it help you understand something better so that other work would benefit? And then finally, assess what you personally learned or contributed to the meeting. This is different to your role and, how well you showed up. This is more of whether or not you got personal value from the meeting. Once you've this done, you might find that there are some meetings that are actually working quite well and may only need 1 or 2 tweaks, and others which really do need an overhaul. Now, once you have that done and you identify maybe some areas to improve in your current meetings, the next thing to do is set up your next meeting for success. And here's where we're getting into the Better Meetings framework. This framework is super easy and I can break it down into 5 different parts. What is the desired outcome of the meeting? What is the best format? Who should be in the meeting? What should be on the agenda? And how can you set the attendees up for success? And I love that last one, so please stick around as I go through that. So step 1 is the desired outcome. And I want you to think about this and communicate to the other people who might be attending. What do you want to come out of the meeting? What do you want to happen after the meeting is finished? So are you looking to have a meeting to clarify something, to get approval, to solve a problem? What is going to be the next step? And what will happen if the meeting doesn't go ahead? So I want you to assess the potential consequence of cancelling or postponing the meeting before you even schedule it. And of course, last but not least, why can't this meeting be an email? These questions help you understand what the outcome is going to be and why this meeting is needed now. The next thing you need to do is choose the format that is going to work. So there are actually a couple of different types of meetings, and it's really important to pick the right format based on your objectives. So here are a few different categories. First, we have our repeating meetings. These are like your weekly team meeting. It's the same people every week. It's the same pattern. They're usually used to review work, renew connections, or refine project plans, things like that, okay? But then you have brainstorming or problem-solving meetings. Not everyone on the team is going to be on these. They have customized participants, maybe people across different departments, and the agenda and the format of the meeting is going to be tailored to meet the need. So, for example, a brainstorming meeting is going to be very, very different to a team meeting which has the same agenda week after week. These meetings are really designed to create change, to move things forward. And then we have the information sharing meetings. So these ones focus on either learning or some kind of evaluation. And there's usually 2 groups, us and them. And a good example is an interview, or you might have a company update where you are getting information from somebody else. The interview is more an information exchange where you're trying to evaluate whether or not they're the right company for you and you're the right person for them. So these meetings really are all around sharing information and resolving questions. So then you can move forward to the next step. So I always recommend taking a few moments to think about this and then choose the format that best suits the purpose of your meeting. Now, I always say it's the people that make the meeting. So step 3, of course, is to decide who should be in the meeting. And now I know there are some organizations where meetings are taking up the entire working week. So the steps in this step are aimed really to make sure that you're being more intentional about who you invite to your meetings so that you're respecting their time and you're also having a really successful meeting, okay? So first of all, I want you to draft your attendee list. Obviously, if this is a recurring team meeting, that's going to be fairly easy. For any of the others, you're going to want to think about that. And then I want you to think about how you want each of those people to contribute to the meeting. So what do you want them to bring to it? Are they a decision maker? Are they a subject matter expert? Are they an alternative point of view? Do they have a specific knowledge area, or are they responsible for a particular part of the business that's needed? Why are they going to be there? And while you're at it, why don't you look at are there alternative contributors if they can't make it? And this just gets you thinking about, are you always inviting the same people to the meeting out of habit or because they are indeed the best person? It's also really good so that if your usual person isn't available, that you're already starting to identify backups. And then I want you to take a look at the impact if one of the attendees doesn't attend. So there might be one person on your attendee list that if they don't show up, nothing can really get done. And it's really important to identify this person first because you might prioritize their calendar when you're scheduling the meeting. If you have multiple team members, please determine if there's really a need for multiple people to be on the meeting from the same team. Sometimes it is needed to get maybe a wider perspective, or it's more efficient for coordinating work. So there are absolutely times where you need more than one person from the same team, but always ask. And then think about what information people need before the meeting. Is there stuff you need to share or you need other people to share? And then think about the post-meeting updates. So are you going to send a recording of the meeting? Are you going to send a formal minutes, a quick summary? What's that going to look like? So that's step 3, understanding who should be in the meeting and how they're going to engage. And that leads us in nicely now to step 4, which is setting the agenda. So you know the objective, you know who you want to attend, you know what the format is going to be, and now we have to look at the nuts and bolts of the meeting itself. And really making sure everyone is on the same page by sharing this agenda in advance is so important. And I want to say, honestly, at this stage, there have been times in my career where I scheduled a meeting and then I was almost wishing and hoping that nobody could attend because I hadn't time to plan for the meeting and I hadn't time to draft the agenda. And if that resonates with you, please know that it's always better to cancel that meeting or to delay it and give yourself the time to prepare, because it serves no one. I mean, when I scheduled those meetings and when they did go ahead, they never really ran very well. Like, people were unsure why they were there. I was unsure of how I wanted it to go. And honestly, it was not the best use of my time or their time. So please don't do what I did. Instead, take the time, take the space to think through the agenda. And look for all the steps that I'm talking through here. Maybe give yourself half an hour to do these. You don't have to take all day, but even 30 minutes is going to make sure you're better prepared. And then whoever shows up is going to have a better experience. So back to the plan, back to the framework, setting the agenda. Here are the basics of an agenda. So first of all, the meeting purpose. So write down what the objective is. And I really like to put down, by the end of this meeting, we will be able to. So by the end of this meeting, we will be able to move to the next stage of the project. By the end of this meeting, we'll be able to identify what external support we need. Whatever it is you want to happen at the end or just after the meeting is really good. Then, of course, we've got the date, the time and duration, and the location, whether it's a hybrid, fully remote or in-person meeting. Then we're going to have the agenda items. So don't just list the topics or the items you want to discuss. Include the expected duration for each of those items and the priority. Okay, so you might have an agenda item that is number 3 just because of the time, but it's really high priority. So if you find that the meeting goes off track, you're going to bump that up to number 2, or you're going to skip the rest to make sure that gets covered, if you know what I mean. And then make sure people are aware if there are any materials or documents or information that they need to review before the meeting. Some people really appreciate having pre-reading material, and then let them know what their role is. So if you want someone to keep an eye on the time, let them know in advance. If you want someone to be a note taker, let them know in advance. Don't put them on the spot in the meeting. And if you want a co-chair or someone to help you facilitate, reach out to that person as well and ask them if they can help. And remember, when you share the agenda in advance and actively use it during the meeting, you're setting everyone up for success. Now, to manage the meeting itself, I think it's really important to understand who's attending and what their learning and their thinking styles are. It's likely that you will end up meeting with the same people most of the time. Okay, so they might not all be on every meeting, but they'll generally be the same group of people. And so that gives you an opportunity over time to learn more about who they are, how they learn, how they think. And all I'm asking you to do here is just to take a moment to take that on board when you're scheduling the meeting and when you're running it. So for example, some people have different learning styles. You might have people who are readers, some people who are more visual, some people who are sketchers and are straight up to the whiteboard, or some people who are more hands-on and want to maybe just get a brief update, then get stuck into the work and come back when they get stuck. When you understand how people learn, if that's an element of the meeting that you're scheduling, you can maybe look at it a little bit differently to make sure that you're making the most out of people's styles. The best way to find out is, of course, to ask. So at the end of your next meeting, maybe ask that and find that out about the people who you meet with most often. Then you have people's thinking styles. So some people are internal thinkers, and I often thought that there were some people that just weren't interested in the meeting that I was scheduling or the meeting that I was holding because they weren't talking back. But the day after or 2 days later, I'd get an email with their thoughts, their questions, the follow-up, and I found out that they're just internal thinkers. They prefer to take it all in, think it through, and then follow up later. And then we have the external thinkers. That's me, by the way. So I prefer to discuss things, to talk it through, to collaborate. And sometimes that's great, but other times it means maybe I could take over a meeting if I didn't have a good facilitator to keep me in check for time and stuff like that. So again, just understand who's in the room, whether that's physical or virtual, and see is there any changes you can make to how you run or manage your meeting to better facilitate everyone. So there are benefits to all different types of learning style and thinking style when you bring that into the meeting. And of course, you're not going to be able to super customize every single meeting to every single attendee. You know that, I know that, but I also know that by even being aware of it and making small tweaks, it can make a big difference. So let's recap. Here are our 5 steps. Okay, so first of all, understand, and most importantly, the desired outcome. By the end of this meeting, we will be able to do what? Then what is the right format? There is no point you trying to run a brainstorming meeting in the same way as you'd run your weekly team meeting. Then think about who's going to attend. Do you have the right people in the room? Are there backups to those people if they can't attend? And what information do they need in advance to be successful? Then I want you to really think about your agenda. I'm just going to say it again. If you don't have time to write the agenda, I would challenge whether you have the time or the capacity to have that meeting within the time frame you've planned. And number 5, last but definitely not least, set the attendees up for success. And from all of this, if there's just one thing that you could do differently, it would be at the end of your next meeting, ask, how did the meeting go on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being not great at all to 5 being really good for everyone, and then decide, is there one small change you can make for the next meeting to make an improvement? Okay, I hope you found that helpful. If you are enjoying this and if it's helping you to create a better workday, please subscribe and share it with a friend, of course. Until next time, stay well and have a better workday.